Starting now, Commonalities, where guests find common ground through uncommon conversations. Politics, religion, finances, all the topics your grandmother told you not to discuss with friends. And now, your host, Matthew Dowling, and today's guests on Commonalities.
Well, everyone, thank you for joining us today on Commonalities. I'm your host, Matt Dowling, and I have a wonderful guest with me today, Lois. Lois has been involved in local politics for over 20 years. She's been involved in school board elections. She's an advocate for school choice. And as many of you have come to know, this new program is about seeing two sides to an issue. Today, we're going to be talking primarily about school choice through a school board member and a parent's eyes. And then at a later point in time, we'll be talking with some of our advocates for public education, even though they may not be in favor of the type of choice that we're discussing today. We'll get them on the show another time to talk about the flip side of this issue. Lois, thank you so much for being with me today. I wanted to give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself and to give us a little bit of background because you are extremely experienced in what you're going to be talking about today.
Well, thank you, Matt. Thank you for having me. My name is Lois Kanashiki, and I am the Pennsylvania State Coordinator for Moms for Liberty. And our goal is to defend parents' rights in education at all levels of government. And I came on board. I'm the first state coordinator they've hired, came on board in June. And we are organized at the county level. So we have county chapters. People can go to our website, momsforliberty.org, and see if you have a chapter set up in your county. And if not, we want to start one. So I'd love to talk to you about people about that. But we're trying to empower parents, grandparents, community members on how they can have an impact and have a voice in their local schools, and of course advocate for parental rights in education. And I've been interested in education issues forever. I just believe a good education is the great leveler of society, no matter what circumstances you're born into. If you get a good education, you can make a better life for yourself. And that's what America's all about, right? Is giving people opportunity, giving them a chance at the American dream, which I very much believe in. But you need to have a good start in life. We spend a lot of money on public education, and we deserve to have an excellent product. And I think we're falling short, and I think a lot of people feel that way these days.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree with you. While I try to stay kind of neutral on this show as a moderator, there's, no lying about the fact that I've been a strong proponent for school choice because I think parents know best what their own kids need in the classroom. So sometimes I have to put my moderator hat on, but I think people already know my point of view when it comes to education. And I think there's an important piece that we need to kind of mention up front. I don't want to speak for you, but I don't think that those who are educators in our public school system are bad people by any stretch of the imagination. I know we keep funding education at larger and larger amounts each year in the state budget. And I know that we've run into a budget deficit when it comes to those school teachers' retirement funds. And I think what's important to remember is that, these are good people for the most part. They're people that are trying to do the best job that they possibly can. They were made promises, albeit them bad promises about their retirement. And as politicians, we kind of have to chuck the blame up to them, not to the teachers, that we've fallen into the pension crisis that we have that is making education so expensive. So I just wanted to kind of lead with the fact that I don't think educators are bad, and I don't think you do either, Lois. That's correct, right?
No, but educators are like every other profession, Matt. There's a range of good and not as good educators. The same there is in every other profession, right? I mean, in most areas of life, you want to have choice and choose who you go to for your services, your professional services, whether it's getting your car fixed, your doctor, or lawyer. And you want to be able to choose who you think is right for you. And unfortunately, that free market approach doesn't apply, unfortunately, in our education system. Not all teachers are equally good. There are a lot of excellent teachers, but there are some that aren't really measuring up. And that's the reality of it. And anyone in the public schools knows that. And I've talked to parents every year. They're like, oh, we pray we don't get teacher X because the teacher X is no good, and it's just the fact. And teachers know it too. And they don't like the fact that there are teachers that aren't doing their job, but the union protects these people. And that's a blemish on the whole system. But yes,
and
excellent teachers.
I think you made an excellent comparison there, and I've never really thought of it this way. But with the accident that I had last October, I've had to have subsequent surgeries several times throughout the last year, and I've gotten a second opinion many times after I've met with one surgeon, and kind of getting that second opinion or another point of view is something that we don't always have the choice with as parents in the public education system. And I think that's a great comparison because even when it comes to doctors, we have that free market approach where we can pick and choose who our surgeon's going to be. And in education, we don't always get that opportunity. We're going to have to pause for a quick commercial break, just a minute or two to recognize our sponsors for today's show. When we come back, Lois and I will be talking about some of the most alarming trends that there are in education, as well as the importance to the upcoming school board elections and so much more. Remember, elections have consequences, and that's why it's so important that we get ahead of the elections coming up and we start talking about them early. So we're going to pause for just a moment, and we'll be back after these messages from our sponsors.
When it comes to buying a home, what you see isn't exactly what you get. That's why home buyers should call Dave Dowling at Grandview Inspections at 724-208-4108. You'll see colorful flowers, freshly painted walls, granite countertops, gleaming hardwood floors, and other touches. What you can't see is the cracks, ancient plumbing, dangerous wiring, or broken appliances that might be revealed when you hire a home inspector. And when it comes to home inspectors, knowing yours has the qualifications and experience needed should be your number one concern. Dave Dowling with Grandview Inspections is an architectural engineer with over 30 years of commercial construction experience and hundreds of inspections under his belt. A home inspection is an opportunity for you to hire an expert to walk through the home and prepare a report outlining the home's major components, what needs immediate attention, and what will require maintenance after you move in. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so make sure your investment is everything you hoped it to be. Call Dave Dowling at Grandview Inspections at 724-208-4108.
You're listening to Commonalities, where guests find common ground through uncommon conversations. We'll be back after this brief break to recognize our sponsors.
Is your business using analog strategies in a digital marketing world? If so, then contact Matthew or Rebecca Dowling at Coordinated 360 for a professional consultation, where we bring in-depth knowledge and functional expertise with a holistic perspective. Coordinated 360 provides digital marketing, paid ad and media buying services, web design, social media management, video production, and more for businesses, organizations, and political campaigns. With decades of experience, Matt and Becky at Coordinated 360 can help you craft your unique message and share it with the world. For a no-risk media evaluation and recommendations, call 724-320-2212 or visit us online at www.coordinated360.com. Find us also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or email info@coordinated360.com.
Well, thank you so much for sticking with us through that commercial break. I'm with Lois today, and we're talking about education, primarily school choice. And we want to talk now. We were kind of at the 30,000 foot view when we opened the show. Now we want to talk a little bit about the most alarming trends in education. So tell me what some of those trends are looking like, Lois.
Well, probably the most alarming trend today is what is called social emotional learning. And that you'll hear the term thrown around a lot, and it sounds warm and fuzzy, and it sounds like it has good intentions. It's actually been around for a long time, but it's being used to data mine our children, collect a lot of data on them for the ultimate goal of grooming their attitudes, values, and beliefs. So education is becoming less and less about academic learning and academic achievement, and more about shaping what kids think and how they think it and what they believe. And we see this time and time again in the schools, even with young children. So, and this is being done in a variety of ways. And I want parents to really be on the lookout for surveys that children are being given in the classroom. They may be on paper. They may be on their Chromebooks or their iPads. They could be done in a variety of different ways. But you really need to be aware of this, and you need to talk to your teachers about it. And it's being integrated into the curriculum. So it could possibly be in every subject, in every grade, and it's being done standalone surveys, and again as part of the curriculum. So you need to be aware of this. You should, in my view, you be well served, and your children will be well served to opt out of these surveys. They are relying on gathering lots and lots of data, because gathering this data is going to tell them, they're training themselves how they can best reach your child with the most effective message to groom their attitudes, values, and beliefs. So they're doing personality surveys, personality tests. They're finding out about your family, because they're doing personality profiles so they can target individual messages through the internet, through a computerization, a technology, directly to your child. They can't do if they don't gather the data. So you should make every effort to opt out of these surveys. And there are a lot of opt-out forms that are available now. We have a lot of opt-out forms. And this is something that parents really need to be aware of. But with our academic achievement on the decline, again, the National Association of Education Progress Report just came in. Our scores are worse than ever. And it's not just COVID. It's because of Common Core that the General Assembly adopted in 2014. And this has been going back for over a generation. But now it's just really come to a head. So the social emotional learning is a very serious problem. It should be outlawed, in my view. And because of the data mining and what they're actually trying to achieve with it, which is not academic achievement. And another very alarming trend, which is related, is the hypersexualization of our children, particularly at very young ages. And I just read in Lebanon School District, I think it was Lebanon School, just one of those, Lebanon County, Palmyra, excuse me. They just adopted a K through 12 LGBTQIA curriculum starting in kindergarten, Matt. And I don't know what parent thinks that they want their children learning about LGBTQ subjects in kindergarten. If you do, that's your prerogative. But I think the majority of parents would not want that in the classroom, and it's not being transparent to the parents about what is going on. And I'm very much in favor of a curriculum transparency bill, so that schools have to post curriculum at the beginning of the school year so parents can see what their kids are going to be taught, because there's just no reason to have this in particularly in elementary school. We're seeing more and more mental health issues, gender transition, gender confusion issues. This is not normal. This is really not normal. And it's being instigated by people pushing subjects on children in an inappropriate way when they are most vulnerable, and just really trying to find out who they are. And it's just very disturbing. We just had a suicide here in, I think it was the Gettysburg School District this past week, and we think it's related to a gender confusion issue. I'm sure you're going to be hearing more of that, but it's just so sad. We don't want to lose any more children to this problem, and we're not following the science. We're following a political agenda, and we need to stand up to it, Matt. And parents really need to talk to their kids in school, especially, from the time they're very young. You need to talk to your kids about what's going on in the classroom and keep that line of communication open, because this can happen to anyone. And one day you wake up and your child just is not the same. And it's so sad. And I just don't, none of us really want to see that at all. And it's a very alarming trend, something that must be fought and parents must be keeping an eye on.
Well, let me take off my radio host hat for a second and the hat of the retired legislator, and put on my parent hat, because I have a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old little boys that are at home. They attend school at Commonwealth Charter Academy. But I think what you're talking about is about respecting other people's way of life. And if you have people like yourself or like myself who maybe lean to some traditional family values, if that's what we want to call them, when we send our kids to school, I don't think we want them hearing a message that is the antithesis or different from the message that we teach at home. And I think respecting those boundaries is so important. If you choose to have a talk about about a kid's sexuality with your own child, that's one thing. When it's done in a classroom, I think that it's something very different. And I think that when it really comes down to it, the crux of the issue is, as you would believe, or as I would believe, is that there's simply no room for sexuality in our classrooms. We wouldn't want our kids to know about the sexuality of their teachers, and we don't want our teachers talking about the sexuality of our kids while they're at school in the classroom.
It's actually worse than that, Matt. It's not just a matter of conflicting with parents' values, which is bad enough, but it's a matter of psychological and mental health as well. There are certain topics that are inappropriate age-wise for children at certain ages, that not to discuss certain topics. I mean, in certain schools, children are being exposed to graphic sexual acts in literature before it is age appropriate, if that's ever age appropriate, I don't know. But certainly at a certain age, you can be exposed to something and it not have it affect you in a negative way. But if you're a preteen or a child and these topics have not ever even been brought up or come into your mind before, and all of a sudden you're exposed to pictures of people, of children performing oral sex on adults, and I mean that can be, if it's presented in a certain way, it can be psychologically harmful to a child. Imagine that child who doesn't feel comfortable going home talking to a parent or guardian about these topics, and they see it in school and they just are confused, right? And they feel shame and guilt, and they don't know who to turn to. What becomes of that child? Who does that child have? And there is an agenda where they want the children to speak to government employees when they're feeling vulnerable, not their parents. And that also is a dangerous trend, right? Because we want to hold families together. We want families to be strong. We don't want state workers supplanting or becoming who children go to for their support. So there's a lot going on that's that's wrong on multiple levels. And sometimes by the time parents find out, the damage has been done. And we want to try to prevent that by being proactive and making sure these materials don't go in the schools particularly in elementary schools, to begin with. Let's not wait till the damage has been done. Let's prevent it from happening in the first place.
Well, you talked a little bit earlier in the program about opt-out opportunities, and I want to talk a little bit more about the specific opt-outs that we want parents to be aware of in relation to these alarming trends that are happening in education, but also in regards to that data mining. And I'm going to get to that as soon as we get back from our next commercial break, because we got to get another sponsor recognition in here. But when we come back, I want to jump on alerting parents of some of the ways that they can opt out. So we'll be back after these messages.
You're listening to Commonalities, where guests find common ground through uncommon conversations. We'll be back after this brief break to recognize our sponsors.
Is your business using analog strategies in a digital marketing world? If so, then contact Matthew or Rebecca Dowling at Coordinated 360 for a professional consultation, where we bring in-depth knowledge and functional expertise with a holistic perspective. Coordinated 360 provides digital marketing, paid ad and media buying services, web design, social media management, video production, and more for businesses, organizations, and political campaigns. With decades of experience, Matt and Becky at Coordinated 360 can help you craft your unique message and share it with the world. For a no-risk media evaluation and recommendations, call 724-320-2212 or visit us online at www.coordinated360.com. Find us also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or email info@coordinated360.com.
When it comes to buying a home, what you see isn't exactly what you get. That's why home buyers should call Dave Dowling at Grandview Inspections at 724-208-4108. You'll see colorful flowers, freshly painted walls, granite countertops, gleaming hardwood floors, and other touches. What you can't see is the cracks, ancient plumbing, dangerous wiring, or broken appliances that might be revealed when you hire a home inspector. And when it comes to home inspectors, knowing yours has the qualifications and experience needed should be your number one concern. Dave Dowling with Grandview Inspections is an architectural engineer with over 30 years of commercial construction experience and hundreds of inspections under his belt. A home inspection is an opportunity for you to hire an expert to walk through the home and prepare a report outlining the home's major components, what needs immediate attention, and what will require maintenance after you move in. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so make sure your investment is everything you hoped it to be. Call Dave Dowling at Grandview Inspections at 724-208-4108.
You're listening to Commonalities, and I'm your host, Matt Dowling, beside my guest, Lois, today. And it's not just that we are on first name basis, but she has an extremely difficult last name to pronounce. And I know I would butcher that. So, Lois, if you want to throw your last name out there, be my guest.
Yes, it's Lois Kanashiki, and I'm with the Moms for Liberty.
Well, it's so great to have you on the program today. We were talking a little bit about ways parents should be familiar to opt out their students of data mining and some of the trends that are happening in education. So why don't you educate us a little bit about how a parent can take those important issues into their own hands and decide that they're going to opt their son or daughter, their student, out of conversations or testing in school?
Right. Well, there's a couple things. There are some pre-made opt-out forms. There's one on courageishabit.org, courageishabit.org. You can get a hold of someone at Moms for Liberty and ask for a pre-made form. But most importantly, I think we're like already into the school year, but speak to your teachers about surveys given in the classroom and assessments and social emotional learning assessments. they are doing social emotional learning assessments. If your teacher says they aren't, the teacher either doesn't realize that they're doing it or they're lying, but they're doing it they may be doing it on the computer and the teacher doesn't even know because of the programs that they're using. So I would talk to the teacher, say that you want to see any surveys. Before any surveys are given in class, you want to see the survey and be able to read the survey yourself and you are going to approve any survey. Your child does not have advanced approval from you to give any survey without a notice in advance. And I would put that in writing. I would maybe sit down with the teacher, talk to them about it first, but put it in writing and give it to them, give them a copy and ask them to sign that they acknowledge and that they will honor your wishes. And I think it's very important to sit down with the teacher if you can and discuss this in person. I just think it's better to look the teacher in the eye and let them know you're serious. Then, depending on how that conversation goes with the teacher, you'll get a good enough feel if you think the teacher is going to honor your wishes. Maybe if you're not sure, you can go up the chain of command. You can go to the building principal and the superintendent, but I would definitely go to the teacher first and address it in that way. If you see other material in the classroom that you don't want your child exposed to, you do have the right to opt out. Your school district should have a policy on curriculum and opting out. If you go to your school district website and you look under school board policies, they're organized but in the hundreds, like 100, 200, 300. I think it's in the 200 level. It'll help you find it. If you can't find it, call the administration office and ask for how to read the district policy on curriculum, and it should be in there how you their policy on how you opt out of any particular curricula. If they don't have a policy, then you should be able to opt out, because I think you have the right. You have to assume you have the right. You are the parent, but you just sort of want to go by their process to and they'll make it easier for you. But always assume that as the parent, you have the right to do what's right for your child. Then the next question is, well, while the classroom is doing this curriculum, what is your child going to be doing? And that's something you have to work out. You can maybe find something on your own that you would prefer your child to do, or then you're going to have to, ask the teacher what they're going to provide. But, then you're getting into risky territory because they don't want the extra work. But those are some tips and, that I would recommend where to start.
And I think if a parent is currently saying, well, maybe this is happening someplace else in the United States, it's not happening in my kid's classroom in Fayette County or Somerset County or Bedford County, I unfortunately have to say that I think that assumption is wrong. I was speaking recently to a retired professor from my college alma mater, Waynesburg University, and this professor in particular was telling me that part of her decision to retire from educating was that these kind of assessments were being forced upon her in her classroom, and the administration of the college was not giving her any choice as to whether or not to use these assessments. They were being required. Now, that's on students that are a little bit older, that maybe have a little bit more of their own ability to know if they should complete an assessment or not. They're college-age kids. But it is happening down to elementary school level, from what I understand, in some of our local classrooms.
Yes, it is. And you should assume it's going on even starting in kindergarten. I mean, they're giving even kindergarten students these iPads. Kindergarten, there is no academic reason why K through third graders, I would say all of elementary school needs iPads or Chromebooks. I mean, and in many ways they can be abused and they can hinder academic development. So they're only being used for data collection. That is the only justification. They're not going to tell you that, but that's really what it's all about. I remember when I was on the school board, when that came up, and I knew that it was going in the wrong path, but I just knew I couldn't convince my colleagues not to buy those Chromebooks. But I would get rid of the Chromebooks in all of elementary school. Go back to, there is nothing wrong with textbooks. There is nothing wrong with pen and paper, and kids learn better when they write anyway than when they type. So that's another issue. It's funny, if you read about the big tech moguls, in Silicon Valley, they don't give their young children technology devices to play on and work on. They don't want them. They know that stuff isn't good for them. So it's very interesting because that's their industry and they know not to put their young children on those devices.
And you talk a little bit about the Silicon Valley companies, those high tech organizations that are out there, and it's not directly related to education, but I'm looking at our election process and the fact that companies like Facebook were putting money into our independent elections here within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We refer to that in the legislature as Zuckerbucks. That were being spent to help operate elections, and kind of gave an unfair advantage. My question to you, and maybe you know this, maybe you don't, are some of those same tech companies, because remember, if we're not paying for something, likely we are the product. And my question is, are some of those tech companies donating or facilitating the use of their technology to our children because they want some of that data that's being mined as well? And then in that process, our kids become the product that's out there for monetary gain.
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much they want the data or that it's just a big money for them. I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry right now. They want a piece of that public education pie. I may be different than other people. I know that they're collecting data on me every time I do a Google search, and I kind of don't care that they're marketing to me because I'm an adult and I can choose what I want to buy and what I don't want to buy. But when it comes to our children and our education, it bothers me a lot because we are substituting something else for what is supposed to be happening in school. It's the biggest scam and ripoff of our lifetime, Matt, and that is what really concerns me.
Well, we have to get one more break in here. It'll be our final break of the program, and then we'll come to close things up. And in our final segment, I want to be able to get time in there to talk about upcoming school board elections and what people should know about their local school boards and the candidates that are putting their names forward to go on that ballot. So we'll be talking about elections here in our final segment today. Also, we're talking about the kind of right side, not right or left, not right or wrong side of this issue. If you happen to disagree with anything that's mentioned on today's podcast and you'd like to be a guest of mine in a future podcast to help debate both sides of this issue, please drop me an email at info@commonalities.online or info@coordinated360.com. We have to get to a quick break, and we'll be back to talk with Lois about school board elections.
You're listening to Commonalities, where guests find common ground through uncommon conversations. We'll be back after this brief break to recognize our sponsors.
Is your business using analog strategies in a digital marketing world? If so, then contact Matthew or Rebecca Dowling at Coordinated 360 for a professional consultation, where we bring in-depth knowledge and functional expertise with a holistic perspective. Coordinated 360 provides digital marketing, paid ad and media buying services, web design, social media management, video production, and more for businesses, organizations, and political campaigns. With decades of experience, Matt and Becky at Coordinated 360 can help you craft your unique message and share it with the world. For a no-risk media evaluation and recommendations, call 724-320-2212 or visit us online at www.coordinated360.com. Find us also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or email info@coordinated360.com.
When it comes to buying a home, what you see isn't exactly what you get. That's why home buyers should call Dave Dowling at Grandview Inspections at 724-208-4108. You'll see colorful flowers, freshly painted walls, granite countertops, gleaming hardwood floors, and other touches. What you can't see is the cracks, ancient plumbing, dangerous wiring, or broken appliances that might be revealed when you hire a home inspector. And when it comes to home inspectors, knowing yours has the qualifications and experience needed should be your number one concern. Dave Dowling with Grandview Inspections is an architectural engineer with over 30 years of commercial construction experience and hundreds of inspections under his belt. A home inspection is an opportunity for you to hire an expert to walk through the home and prepare a report outlining the home's major components, what needs immediate attention, and what will require maintenance after you move in. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so make sure your investment is everything you hoped it to be. Call Dave Dowling at Grandview Inspections at 724-208-4108.
Well, thank you for tuning in today to Commonalities, which is found any place that you download your podcasts or on WMBS 590 AM 101.1 FM on your radio dial. This is Matt Dowling, and I'm your host for today's show. And we're speaking to Lois, and we want to talk a little bit about elections and their consequences and the school board elections, which are very important, that will be coming up here in the near future.
Yes. So I know everybody's thinking about next week, which they should be. It's an very important election as well. But these elections keep getting more and more important, it seems like every year. Next spring already, we have primaries for local elections, which includes local school boards. And half of your school boards, board directors, you have 9 school directors in every school district, and at least 5 of them will be up for election in the spring. And anyone can run for school board. You just need to file the paperwork in March, and you're on the primary ballot. We need people who are going to stand up to these alarming trends that we've discussed in education, the hypersexualization of our children, and data mining and social emotional learning. It's all bad. And every day that goes by, our children are losing more academic learning because we don't have school boards that are asking the tough questions and taking the bull by the horns. You know, we have this culture in school boards where school directors go to meetings and they allow the superintendent to just throw a bunch of stuff in front of them, and then they rubber stamp everything, and then they go home. And I know I'm trivializing what school directors do. I was a school director for 4 years, but in essence, that's what it mostly is, with very few exceptions. And those days are over, Matt. We need school directors to be proactive and to start developing policies and procedures that are fighting back against this stuff, and making sure when they hire district administrators that they are on the same page. And we have to hire district administrators that aren't going to put up with this. And I'll give you a quick example. In a school district that I'm close to, apparently there was a brand new teacher in 3rd grade that it got back to school director, I guess, that first day of class, this new teacher asked her 3rd graders, these are 6 and 7-year-olds, Matt, which pronoun they wanted to use. Now, can you imagine that? So this got back to the superintendent, and to his credit, he went to the teacher quietly, didn't make a big deal out of it. He went to the teacher quietly and said, "We don't do that here," just very firmly. And she said, "Oh, okay." She said, "That's what they taught us to do in teacher school." You see, this is another problem, is our teacher certification programs, which we could hopefully change legislatively, I hope, in the future. But because we had this superintendent that understood common sense, in my view, he nipped it in the bud. But if you have a woke superintendent who thinks this is now what we have to do in third grade, for goodness sake, now you have a battle on your hands. You don't want to hire people like that. So the school directors have to make sure the superintendent is on the same page and that they have all these policies in place. They know what's going on in the classroom. If you're hiring new teachers straight out of college, you better be careful. I think they almost need re-education before they start in the classroom. But school directors are very important. Next year, we have a majority up for election, and we desperately need citizens to run who will help us. It's definitely giving back to your community. You are not paid. We desperately need people who are going to defend what's right in education for our children. And I can't overemphasize. I think today, in my view, personally, the most important people in our country are governors and school directors. And I firmly believe that. And Moms for Liberty, our chapters are looking for candidates, and a lot of them will be endorsing candidates next year. So we're going to be watching these races very closely, and there's a lot at stake.
You mentioned the importance of school directors, and sometimes it is a very thankless job. So we have to be thankful for the people that put their name on that ballot and allow us to vote for them for that position, because they're stepping up and they're taking a position that not everyone wants to do. As someone who has put their name on a ballot before, I can attest to the fact that that's not always the simplest decision to make. There's an old joke in politics that says that school boards are a place for good politicians to go to die, because you can either raise taxes or cut services. But those aren't the only things that they're able to do. So I would have to say that joke's a little outdated. Right now, they are our frontline defenders for basically our way of life. Yes. So it's extremely important that we get valuable people that are willing to stand up and make hard decisions for no pay, and perhaps make some enemies in the process of doing it. But it is so important that those people step up. And, in my local area, I would say if I can be a resource to anyone who's thinking about putting their name on a ballot, you can always contact me. I'll give you my opinion about that, and encouragement and help if we sit in the same location, point of view on some of the issues. But, it is so important that we get people geared up for these elections. We have just about 2 minutes left, and I wanted to give you a chance to give your organization's website and social media contact information out, so that people who have been listening today, if they want to connect with you or get further information, they know how to do it.
Great. Again, I'm with Moms for Liberty, and our mission is to defend parents' rights in education at all levels of government. And our website is momsforliberty.org, and my email address is Lois, that's LOIS, at momsforliberty.org. And these school board elections are so important. I just want to add that quickly that these school boards can do things the legislature refuses to do. They can enact curriculum transparency, get you good curriculum, and can oversee everything going on in the schools. So it's really important that people step up and take the bull by the horns and really, really stand up to what's going on. And we're here to support those kinds of candidates and to give them whatever we can to make sure that they're successful.
Hey, Lois, it has been great to have you on the program today. Maybe in the future you can be back to educate us more about what is happening in trends of education. Again, you were a great guest. Before you come on the next time, I will learn how to pronounce your last name. I promise. But it's a tricky one for me. So we'll learn that before you come on again. Just want to thank you for being with us today. And if you have any questions for Lois, my guest today, she rattled off her contact info. My contact info can be found at commonalities.online. And we'll also post the information that Lois gave you to get a hold of her or her organization. Thank you so much for listening today. Have a great week, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Matt.
Starting now, This has been Commonalities, a show where guests find common ground through uncommon conversations. Copyright 2022 Coordinated 360. All public rebroadcasts should be done with prior written approval from Matthew Dowling. All requests should be sent to info@coordinated360.com. Thank you for listening to Commonalities.